Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, I have explained to you how we are affected in terms of our electromagnetic brainwave in our brain, and how our connection in terms of the totality of our conscious mind or subconscious mind, and it's linked from, this is the akal al-juzi linked to our akal al-kulli, and how this is affecting our success in terms of our spiritual life, in terms of our emotional life, our mental life and physical life. Because Allah give us the four realms of existence. This is our model, you can find in our book. Alright, there's a lot of detail there. So we have the gift at the azali, we have the gift of the roh, the qalb and the akal. Alright, when we are given this life on this dunya, we have our jasad, which is linked on. So our nafs is the whether the nafs is now controlled by the jasad, which is the nafsul ammara, or the nafs that's controlled by the roh and the qalb. Alright, so if we look at all these four realms of our existence, we have our roh, alright, we have our qalb, we have our akal and our jasad. And for our akal, we have al-akal al-kulli and akal al-juzi. Alright, so this akal here, this is akal al-juzi. I'm explaining this in a bit details because maybe in Islamic psychology, not many people are actually studying this aspect. I'm just scratching the surface, because if we understand that, if we look from the perspective of Al-Quranul Kareem and the Hadith of the Prophet and the metaphysics of Islam, we know the loci of control is our qalb, and our qalb is linked to the physical heart. So there is a Hadith where Rasulullah ﷺ tells us that there's about this physical heart, or this heart, if this disease, then the whole body is diseased. That refers to the physical heart, which is linked to the spiritual heart. So our qalb is not just the heart, but the heart that is linked to the higher heart, that is the qalb. The same thing, our akal al-juzi is our, that is residing, both the sub and subconscious mind, not only residing in our brain, but is linked to the akal al-kulli, that is the realm of the absolute. When Allah created us, He has given us this faculty, the faculty of the roh, the qalb, the akal and the jasad. So that's why the reality of our existence in this dunya, even though we are a physical being, the manifestation of whatever that is affecting us at the level of the qalb, at the level of the roh, at the level of the akal, will then be reflected in the jasad, because the jasad is the lower frequency. So this lower frequency would actually be able to then receive the manifestation of whether good or bad. For example, stress, anxiety, depression, feelings of loneliness, feelings of worthlessness, feelings of joy, feelings of love, feeling of caring, sharing, and so on. So all those are conceptual states, or the hal, whatever you want to call it, the various state of our life, which is then linked back to the nature of existence, whether we are living a life that is graced by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is iman, Islam and ihsan, or a life that is pulled by the nafsul ammara and the satanic and the evil forces. Then you degrade into hawaniyah and shaitaniya. So what is important is how then we want to create this joy, this happiness, this fulfillment, free from worry, fear, disease, which all of us will have to face. As long as we are in this dunya, we have to face. So what we need to do is you go back to the teachings of Al-Quranul Kareem and the Sunnah of the Prophet and the metaphysics of Islam, that we understand that qalb is a loci of control, which will affect our roh, will affect our akal. So we must then keep our heart clean. That means the heart, qalbun salim. Alright, this heart that is clean, that can then be manifested in terms of how we have the joy of iman, the joy of being a Muslim, the happiness of knowing that we have Jannah in the future, and all those things are based on the understanding of something beyond just the physical. That means if we just live in the physical realm alone, then we are living only in the akal al-juzi. But if we understand that if we are living in the realm, higher realm, then we are living in the realm of the qalb, the roh, the akal, and the jasad, which is the lowest. So from the high to the low, this is the highest frequency, the roh. All right, the energy or the frequency of rohaniyah is very high. All right, that's why our great prophets, our great waliullah can create miracles, not because of their own ability, but because of their link with the absolute, the realm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is a mystery, it's a sir. But we are not going to get into that level, because I'm trying to fuse this idea of how we can understand from the perspective of psychology. Remember, so the brain waves is a reflection of our conscious and subconscious mind, but it's also a reflection of another level of existence, that is the supraconscious. So the akal al-kulli is a supraconscious, which then link towards the qalb being the center of loci of control, affecting our roh, affecting our akal, both kulli and jasad, kulli and akal al-kulli and akal al-juzi, and then the jasad. So from the perspective of psychology, we can say that if we are living in iman, we are living in love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are living in gratitude. There are certain conditions that will bring us what we call coherent wave. So we can have coherent waves. This can be tracked, all right, in terms of your coherent wave at the level of your qalb and at the level of your akal, or because the brain waves here is a reflector of akal al-juzi. So this brain wave pattern that I'm trying to tell you now is coming to this side, all right. The other pattern, the other energy frequency is coming from the akal al-kulli, all right, and they are coming from the qalb, and they are coming from the roh, and it is manifested then in the physical body, the jasad. All right, so you can see the hierarchy in which, if you can understand the metaphysics of Islam, then you can understand the psychology of how our life is being shaped by the grace, the mercy, the compassion, the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if your cup is filled with love, filled with grace, filled with mercy, filled with compassion, filled with gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this will grow stronger and stronger and stronger, and you have coherent waves, and this can be measured. Remember, even at the manifestation of the lower level, we can measure coherent waves. We have, for example, coherent between the heart and the brain. All right, so we have the heart brain coherent variability, which is now a lot of research done by the institute called HeartMath. And the incoherent wave is this, where it's all like a mess. All right, your wave is, you have all kind of waves. This is stress, this is peacefulness, happiness, iman, fulfillment. This is shahwaniyah, haywaniyah, always in trouble, always sad, always having problem in life, not achieving anything that you want to do, and always being greedy, being no hope, no future, addiction, and all that. So this is incoherent wave we can measure. All right, if you take the EEG scan as well as the functional MRI scan in terms of the blood flow, you can see which part of the brain is being lighted up, and if it is red, it is very, very active in terms of high beta, which is actually reflecting of people who are seeking addiction or are addicted to a certain form of behavior, negative behavior especially, or people who are stressed out, people who have anxiety, people who have depression, and so on. So we must understand that if we can then move away from incoherence to coherence through our training, because this is the life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this life as a area of testing. We are created as a spiritual being, a rohaniyah, living in a physical world. So when we understand that we are a spiritual being living in a physical world, then our duty is to explore the possibility of the goodness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of iman, Islam, and ihsan. So there must be a lot of ikhtiyar, because this is the world of ikhtiyar. This is a world in which we strive to overcome our challenges. But if we are able to follow the path of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the path of the awliyaullah, the path of the waliullah, the path of the great scholars of Islam, we can then move from our incoherent state of sadness, of fear, of anxiety of this dunya, of not enough money, or not enough love, or not everything is not enough if you are living in the realm of greed. You go into the coherence where you surrender and submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you receive the joy of fulfillment of the love from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the grace, and all the wonderful gifts of goodness that is given to us. As each time, for example, if all our great scholars, each time when they end their talk, they always say, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azaban nar. Ya Allah, give us the goodness of this world and the goodness of the hereafter. So that is what we are trying to do, because we are assured of the goodness hereafter, but how should we feel having the goodness of this world, always receiving the light from Allah, the nur, the energy, whichever is the frequency. Again, this is something that psychologists will have to understand, and then do the brain mapping, use all the science and technology to show that we can move from incoherent state to coherent state, and from then we can understand the psychology of what we call khushu', the psychology of what we call fana, and the psychology of what we call baqa, and inshallah from then we can achieve some sort of understanding of the nature of our akal, at least, because psychology is linked to our akal, and we then can propound the beauty of this deen, which is the truth from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to all our brothers and sisters, especially we Muslims, and to all humanity in the future, inshallah.